In 2020, there was an incident that took place at my granddaughter's school, and Susie called me. Everyone knows that we have dedicated our lives to spreading the love of Jesus.
Julie Roys has just released recordings that expose shocking private conversations between Daystar president Joni Lamb and Doug Weiss. These leaked tapes are not only unsettling, but could shake the core of the Christian broadcasting world. Could this be the moment that changes everything for Daystar and its followers? Let us uncover the truth behind these explosive conversations that caused the Vatican to send investigators to the US. The rise and fall of a Christian media giant. Daystar Television Network has long been a giant in Christian media. Founded in 1997 by Marcus and Joni Lamb, the network's meteoric rise was powered by a unique blend of faith-driven content and personal charisma. Their mission was clear: to inspire, educate, and uplift through Christian programming. Within just a few years, Daystar became a household name, boasting millions of viewers worldwide. The network's reach extended far beyond American borders, cementing its influence as a global leader in evangelical media. But beneath this shiny exterior, cracks have always been present, growing wider with each passing year of scrutiny and success. Before we delve into this, it's clear that the truth behind Daystar's success is far darker than anyone suspected, and what's coming next will leave you questioning everything. From the beginning, Marcus and Joni Lamb's public image was pivotal to Daystar's appeal. Their on-screen chemistry, combined with heartfelt testimonies and fiery sermons, drew people in. The Lambs became symbols of faith and integrity, icons of what many Christians aspired to be. However, fame brings its own challenges. The Lambs' prominence made them targets of criticism, and whispers of financial mismanagement have circulated for years. Yet, nothing had ever reached the level of the recent revelations. The scandal began with rumors of lavish spending that seemed out of step with the ministry's stated values. Reports surfaced alleging that Daystar funds were used to cover personal expenses, and not just small ones. The most notable accusation involved a six-figure honeymoon for Joni Lamb at a luxury resort in Mexico. Such claims sparked outrage among viewers who had sacrificially donated to the network, believing their money would go towards spreading the gospel and helping the needy. The idea that their contributions might have financed opulent vacations struck a nerve, causing many to question whether they had been deceived. Joni Lamb responded publicly, vehemently denying the allegations in a video statement. She insisted that no Daystar funds were used for her honeymoon and that the claims were entirely false. Her denial, however, did little to calm the growing unrest. Skepticism intensified as investigative reports painted a different picture. Detailed financial records appeared to contradict her statements, suggesting that corporate credit cards were used for luxury accommodations, fine dining, and other extravagant expenses. This apparent misuse of funds raised broader questions about Daystar's financial practices and governance. The fallout was swift and far-reaching. Social media buzzed with debates over the ethics of religious organizations handling massive sums of donor money. Critics argued that Daystar's leadership failed to embody the principles of accountability and stewardship they preached. Supporters, meanwhile, were torn between defending a beloved ministry and acknowledging the troubling evidence. The scandal also caught the attention of watchdog groups, which began pushing for stricter regulations on nonprofits to prevent similar incidents in the future. Adding fuel to the fire, Joni Lamb's son Jonathan emerged as an unlikely whistleblower. Over time, Jonathan had grown increasingly disillusioned with his family's leadership. Feeling ignored and sidelined, he took the drastic step of recording private conversations. These recordings revealed not just financial impropriety, but also deep-seated conflicts within the Lamb family. In one particularly heated exchange, Jonathan confronted his mother about her priorities, accusing her of neglecting her family in favor of the network. His words captured the frustration and pain of someone who had watched their family dynamic crumble under the weight of public expectations. The recordings, dubbed the Jonathan Lamb Files, quickly became fodder for media outlets and social commentators. They exposed the internal struggles of a family torn between their public mission and private realities. Listeners heard accusations of manipulation, power struggles, and a growing sense of betrayal. the Lamb family's carefully curated image as a unified front began to unravel, revealing the human flaws behind the glossy facade. Public reactions to the leaked recordings were polarized. Some praised Jonathan as a hero for bringing hidden truths to light. Others condemned him for airing family grievances in such a public and damaging way. The divide extended to Daystar supporters, many of whom found themselves caught in an uncomfortable position. Should they continue supporting a ministry mired in controversy, or demand transparency and accountability from its leaders? The scandal's implications stretch far beyond the Lamb family. It raises critical questions about the broader evangelical community's approach to leadership and accountability. Daystar's case is not unique. It serves as a cautionary tale for other religious organizations operating on a large scale. The lack of oversight and transparency that allowed such issues to fester highlights systemic problems that need addressing. If trust is to be restored, ministries must prioritize ethical leadership and open financial practices. As the scandals grow, the Lamb family faces trouble that could break everything they've built. A ministry at a crossroads. Despite the mounting evidence, some supporters remain steadfast in their loyalty to Daystar. They argue that no organization is perfect and that the good Daystar has done should not be overshadowed by its failings. Indeed, the network's contributions to disaster relief, humanitarian aid, and community outreach are significant. But for others, the scandal represents a breaking point, a moment when faith in the institution is no longer enough to overlook its flaws. As the dust settles, the question remains: can Daystar recover from this controversy, or will it mark the beginning of the end for one of the world's most prominent Christian broadcasters? The answer may lie in how the Lamb family chooses to move forward. Will they take responsibility and implement meaningful changes, or double down on their denials and risk alienating even more supporters? One thing is certain: the road ahead will not be easy. When Jonathan Lamb spoke about the financial troubles facing Daystar, his words struck a nerve. He openly admitted that the ministry was drowning in debt, exposing cracks in the facade of stability the organization had long maintained. This raw confession, filled with emotion, highlighted a deeper issue within the Lamb family's public ministry. As their internal conflicts spilled into the public eye, it became harder to ignore the questions surrounding their operations. Could they sustain their ministry while grappling with personal and financial turmoil? The implications of these struggles were clear. Something had to give. The release of the Jonathan Lamb files did more than shed light on the family's troubles. These recordings painted a picture of a ministry on the edge, struggling to balance its lofty mission with mounting internal chaos. Daystar, once a beacon of faith-based broadcasting, now faced scrutiny that went far beyond its sermons. At the heart of the controversy were allegations of financial mismanagement that raised serious ethical questions. Critics began to wonder, how could an organization preaching love and integrity harbor such deep-rooted dysfunction? The financial practices at Daystar became a focal point of criticism. It wasn't just about personal expenses, but about the broader implications of their spending habits. For example, Joni Lamb's extravagant honeymoon raised eyebrows. Reports revealed she had charged nearly $100,000 to her Daystar corporate credit card, using ministry funds to finance a luxurious trip to Ventanas al Paraíso resort. Lavish accommodations, fine dining, and high-priced entertainment dominated the expenses. This revelation directly contradicted her public claims that no ministry funds were involved, leading to an uproar among supporters. The spending didn't stop at the honeymoon. Investigative outlets discovered Daystar's private jet had been used for personal trips, including multiple flights to Colorado Springs and Florida. These revelations fueled concerns about whether donations were being misused for personal luxuries rather than advancing the ministry's mission. Adding to the public's unease, it came to light that the Lamb family had recently purchased a multi-million-dollar beach condo in Florida. The extravagant lifestyle painted a stark contrast to the values of humility and stewardship the ministry claimed to uphold. Jonathan Lamb, a former vice president at Daystar, emerged as a whistleblower in this unfolding drama. He revealed that a board member initially objected to the honeymoon expenses but later gifted Joni the funds. While this may have been intended as a gesture of goodwill, it raised further questions about governance and accountability. Jonathan's disclosures highlighted a lack of oversight within the ministry, reinforcing concerns about how financial decisions were being made. For a faith-based organization, The optics of these choices were disastrous. As more details emerged, the scandal began to shift focus from isolated incidents to the broader governance issues within Daystar. The blurred lines between personal and professional boundaries were evident, especially in a family-run organization like this one. Jonathan's criticism of his own family's actions reflected not just personal disappointment, but also a genuine concern for the integrity of the ministry. His voice became a rallying cry for stricter financial guidelines and greater accountability. The fallout from these revelations was immense. Loyal supporters began to question whether their donations were being used appropriately. Contributions, once a steady lifeline for Daystar, started to dwindle as disillusionment spread among its audience. The ministry's credibility, so carefully built over the years, was now in jeopardy. Supporters wondered if their money was truly going towards spreading the gospel or simply funding a lavish lifestyle. This crisis of confidence wasn't just about finances, it was about trust. Daystar's public image was built on the values of love, integrity, and compassion. These scandals threatened to unravel that narrative, leaving supporters to grapple with a harsh new reality. How could they continue to support a ministry that appeared so out of touch with its own teachings? Jonathan Lamb's actions didn't just show family struggles, they brought out bigger problems for the ministry: faith, family, and financial struggles. The strain within the Lamb family only added to the turmoil. Jonathan's decision to publicly criticize the ministry's financial practices created a deep rift. His mother, Joni Lamb, denied any wrongdoing, further escalating tensions. The emotional toll on the family was evident, with relationships fraying under the weight of public scrutiny. For a family so closely tied to their ministry, this conflict had far-reaching implications. Family-run ministries like Daystar often walk a fine line between personal and professional interests. When those lines blur, the potential for conflicts of interest grows. The Lamb family's situation underscored the need for clear governance structures to protect the organization's mission. Without these safeguards, personal decisions risk overshadowing the ministry's purpose. As the scandal deepened, it became clear that the Lamb family faced an uphill battle. Restoring trust would require more than just public statements. It would demand tangible changes in how Daystar operated. Calls for increased oversight and transparency grew louder, both from critics and from within the faith-based community. The need for reform wasn't just about Daystar, it was about setting a standard for other organizations facing similar challenges. Daystar's financial stability also came into question. As contributions declined, the ministry struggled to cover its operational costs. The lavish spending by its leaders stood in stark contrast to the growing financial strain. Supporters began to ask tough questions about how their donations were being used. This uncertainty created a crisis that threatened the very foundation of the ministry. For a long time, Daystar had positioned itself as a leader in Christian broadcasting, but this scandal revealed a darker side to its operations. The revelations about financial mismanagement and family conflict painted a picture of an organization losing sight of its mission. Supporters who once rallied around the Lamb family now felt betrayed. The path to redemption would be anything but easy. The broader implications of these scandals extended beyond Daystar. They raised critical questions about accountability and transparency within the nonprofit sector as a whole. How many other organizations operated under similar conditions? What safeguards were in place to protect donors from potential misuse of funds? These were questions that resonated far beyond the walls of Daystar Studios. The Lamb family's saga became a cautionary tale for other ministries. It highlighted the risks of intertwining personal and professional lives, particularly in family-run organizations. Without clear boundaries and robust oversight, even the most well-intentioned ministries could find themselves mired in controversy. The lessons from Daystar's struggles were clear. Accountability and transparency weren't optional, they were essential. As Daystar worked to navigate this crisis, the challenges ahead were daunting. The ministry would need to rebuild its reputation, address its financial woes, and mend the fractures within the Lamb family. This wouldn't be a quick or easy process. It would require a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths and make meaningful changes. For supporters, the revelations about Daystar were a wake-up call. They forced a reevaluation of what it meant to support a faith-based organization. Was it enough to believe in the message, or did the actions of the leaders matter just as much? These were questions that didn't have easy answers, but they were questions that needed to be asked. The entire situation became a juggling act between keeping up the public mission of faith and tackling a very real financial storm. The leadership was stuck in a corner, forced to make tough choices. Should they cut back and focus on the basics, or should they go all out, hoping to regain what was lost? Every decision seemed like a double-edged sword, promising either a breakthrough or a complete collapse. The air within the organization was thick with anxiety, and Joni Lamb, once a beacon of hope, was at the center of this growing chaos. Her actions weren't just about her family, but the survival of the employees who depended on her and the future of the network itself. One bold move came in the form of a high-stakes fundraising campaign designed to inject new life into Daystar's crumbling finances. While the campaign promised big results, it faced a wave of criticism. Many questioned whether the Lambs were more concerned with their wallets than their faith. What was supposed to be a hopeful step forward ended up looking like a desperate attempt to keep the ship from sinking. Critics and supporters alike began to wonder if the foundation of the network was cracking under the weight of its contradictions. The trouble only gets worse as family arguments and work problems push Daystar closer to falling apart. Scandals that shook Daystar's foundation. As if the financial struggles weren't enough, scandals started to bubble to the surface, creating an even bigger mess. Leadership disagreements became obvious, and staff morale plummeted as whispers of layoffs and budget cuts spread. People who had poured their lives into the ministry now faced an uncertain tomorrow. The uplifting spirit that once defined Daystar was replaced with a tense and fearful atmosphere. To make matters worse, the media got wind of the internal turmoil and began digging into the network's financial practices, only to uncover even more questionable decisions. The revelations didn't stop at financial mismanagement. Allegations of ethical lapses and personal misconduct began to paint a darker picture of what was happening behind closed doors. Supporters who once admired Daystar's mission found themselves questioning their loyalty. The Lamb family's reputation was on the line as former employees came forward, sharing stories of a toxic work environment where loyalty was valued over honesty. These accounts only added fuel to the fire, suggesting that the organization's moral compass might have been lost in its pursuit of influence and power. A particularly shocking accusation came from a former high-ranking executive who decided to expose the leadership's extravagant lifestyle. Stories about luxury retreats, high-end cars, and personal expenses disguised as business costs began to circulate. For supporters, this felt like a betrayal of everything they had believed in. The whistleblower's revelations sent shockwaves through the community and drew intense media scrutiny, leaving the Lamb family scrambling to manage the fallout. As more details emerged, the cracks in Daystar's facade became impossible to ignore. The Lambs, once seen as pillars of virtue in the Christian community, were now under a microscope. The faithful were left wondering how a ministry built on principles of charity and faith could be tangled in such controversies. Trust, which had taken years to build, began to erode rapidly. The public's growing disillusionment with the Lamb family mirrored the larger issue of accountability within faith-based organizations. Media outlets latched onto the unfolding drama, eager to expose the truth. Investigative reports revealed layers of mismanagement that left even the most loyal supporters in shock. Daystar's image of inspiration and hope had been replaced with one of scandal and betrayal. The Lamb's legacy, once untouchable, now hung in the balance as they faced mounting pressure to answer tough questions and take responsibility for their actions. The ripple effects of this turmoil extended far beyond the Lamb family. The entire Christian broadcasting community felt the impact as supporters and viewers re-evaluated their trust in Daystar. Questions about the integrity of faith-based messaging and the ethical standards of religious leaders became louder. Employees who had dedicated their lives to the ministry were forced to confront the possibility that their efforts had been overshadowed by leadership's missteps. Amid the chaos, Joni and Marcus Lamb struggled to regain control. Once celebrated as visionaries, they now appeared overwhelmed by the scandal consuming their lives and ministry. Every attempt to explain or defend their actions seemed to add fuel to the fire. The public's demand for transparency and accountability left the Lambs grappling with an ever-growing storm of criticism and skepticism. At the heart of the controversy were fundamental questions about ethics and stewardship. Faith-based organizations rely heavily on donor support, which comes with a responsibility to use those funds wisely. Allegations that Daystar's leadership had misused donations for personal gain struck a nerve with supporters. For many, the scandal represented a breach of trust that was hard to forgive. Critics pointed to the glaring disconnect between Daystar's values and its leadership's actions. How could a ministry dedicated to faith and service justify extravagant spending while claiming to serve a higher purpose? This contradiction became a rallying point for those demanding greater accountability from religious organizations. Supporters called for stricter oversight to ensure that donations were used as intended, adding pressure on Daystar to address these concerns. The fallout from the scandal was not just about repairing public trust, but also about the broader implications for faith-based organizations. Daystar's struggles served as a wake-up call for the Christian broadcasting community, highlighting the need for transparency and ethical governance. As the Lamb family fought to salvage their reputation, the organization faced an uphill battle to rebuild its standing and mission. Rebuilding trust required more than just apologies. Daystar needed to take concrete steps to address the concerns of its supporters. This included an honest evaluation of past practices, a commitment to transparency, and a willingness to implement meaningful reforms. The path to redemption was steep, but it was the only way forward if Daystar wanted to restore its reputation and fulfill its mission. Is Daystar's leadership simply misunderstood? Or do these leaked conversations reveal a deeper problem within the network? Share your thoughts, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.